The church is not a sanctuary of saints. We're a place of sinners.
Marilyn Dudley was treasurer of the Presbyterian Women and the Memorial Committee at Collierstown Presbyterian Church for 14 years. She was a devoted wife, a VMI employee, and a Relay for Life volunteer. But in December, she was sentenced to 3 years and 8 months in prison for embezzling more than $150,000 from the church.
And I can say, I think, without reservation for almost everybody in the church, it was a very, very difficult thing. How do you, as a church community, deal with a member who was born into the church, who has taken the money? How do you deal with it?
Other church members took over the accounts when Dudley spent 2 months in the hospital at the beginning of 2014. Collierstown Presbyterian pastor Skip Hastings says that's when they realized something was wrong.
Well, these women were writing checks and they were coming back as bounced. And they just, how can they be bounced when we've been having $6,000 to $7,000 in our bank account?
Church members reported the missing funds to the Rockbridge County Sheriff's Office after they went back through their bank records and realized it had been going on for years. Sheriff's investigator Tony McFadden says his investigation took about 6 months.
One of the first things we did was basically try to collect all the records of all the bank accounts and all the budget reports over the past 10 years.
Linda Wilder was the chair of the church's stewardship committee when the signs of embezzlement surfaced. She oversaw the internal investigation, which included working with the sheriff's office and tracking down 12 years' worth of bank records.
So the bank where the bulk of the accounts were housed, that bank had been bought 4 times over the course of the 12 years that the money had been stolen.
McFadden calculated that Dudley had embezzled about $157,000. Church officials looking at the same accounts came up with a figure $10,000 higher. The discrepancy comes from all the cash Dudley could have taken from the collection plate and the church's annual Blanket Sunday fundraiser.
And that's one of the hard things, is that to be able to go back and say for certainty how much it was, you have to have a paper trail. And with the cash, people give it, put it up on the Blanket Sunday. Marilyn took it home, and there was the report that she gave. It may have been 500, she only may have reported 200.
Dudley stole from the Presbyterian Women's Funds, the church's annual dinner funds, and the Memorial Committee's funds, Hastings says. She opened a bank account with the church's money in her own name and had the treasurer's reports mailed to her house.
We had heard through folks working here for our annual dinner that at times Marilyn would take Walmart bags with cash and stick them in the back of her car, saying that she would count it later, but there was so much money that she didn't want to have it exposed here.
Hastings says the Dudleys were struggling financially after their house's mortgage ballooned.
I think if they would have come knocking on the door and saying, hey, we're a little financial problems now, can the church help us out? Because oh golly, the church helps folks out in the community all the time.
The court ordered Dudley to pay back almost $103,000. Of that, she has paid back $20,000, which she took out of her VMI retirement fund. Lexington attorney David Natkin, who defended Dudley, says Dudley had no criminal record before she stole from the church.
I guess women don't grab a gun and go stick up a liquor store, but also I suppose that given the way our economy is structured, a lot of time it is women who have clerical positions or bookkeeping, administrative type jobs.
The church kept investigating after Dudley was sent to prison. It finished only recently.
We've basically just finished, because then we had to, after the criminal case was finished, then we had to go on to our insurance company. And we had to gather more and more information for them in order to prove the loss.
Church members are still coping.
Situations like this have been known in the past to break apart a congregation. Ours is so small that any rift could have been, really devastating to the church. So we really had to work hard to manage the message.
What's hard is to understand that all the money that had been given through the Memorial Committee for someone's deceased parent or loved one, the Presbyterian Women's money, the annual dinner money, we spend a lot of that on the benevolence, the missionary stuff.
Like all embezzlement cases, Dudley's case was a breach of trust.
In that incident, it's the church family. It's really your extended family. So you put your trust and faith in a member to do what's right, and then that trust gets violated.
Despite its loss, the church is steadily recovering.
We've gotten a couple of $1,000 gifts from people to say, we heard what happened to you. People in the community who don't attend church said, here's some money. We read in the newspaper what happened, and we want to help you with that.
Hastings said the church has implemented more checks and balances to prevent future embezzlement. Church treasurers must give documentation of where all the incoming money goes. All bank statements are sent to the church, and the stewardship committee chair goes through every line item every month.
Well, we lost a lot of our innocence as being trusting folks. I won't say have lost all of it, but now when we count the money after church, we have 2 people who count it and they have to sign off on it.
Hastings thinks that the close-knit community could contribute to the frequency of embezzlement cases in the Rockbridge area.
It's a trusting area, especially in churches, but they are easy marks apparently because you do trust people. There is a lot of cash that goes back and forth.
Many of the 150 members of Collierstown Presbyterian Church have a particular pew where they sit every Sunday. The Dudley family's possessions, left in their pew on their last Sunday at church, are still there waiting for them if they choose to come back. While some still hold resentment toward Dudley, many have forgiven her.
The fact that she is actually in jail, I mean, we think about it.
But we still need to say, hey, we're all sinners. We all need to forgive.
Dudley is now in Fluvanna Correctional Center for Women and declined an interview. For the Rockbridge Report, I'm Happy Carlock.